All right, we're going to continue with finishing the peripheral nervous system. We left off on just starting to talk about reflexes. You have something called the reflex arcs, which is whenever you like touch a hot pan, your hand moves away very quickly. So we're going to talk about exactly what happens with that process. So although the somatic nervous system is generally considered to be under conscious control, some actions of the system occur actually automatically. So for example, if you accidentally step on a tack with your bare foot, your leg may recoil before you're even aware of the pain. So this rapid response, known as a reflex, is caused by impulses that travel a pathway known as the reflex arc. So these steps are going to be good to know for the test. In the example of stepping on tack, so here's your tack that you're stepping on, ouch. The first thing that happens is that sensory receptors in your foot react to this sensation of the tack, and they send an impulse to the sensory neurons. So sensory receptors receive the stimulus, and then they're going to send that impulse to the sensory neurons. So number 2 here, the sensory neurons are going to relay this information to the spinal cord. So here's your spinal cord. Step 3 here, you have neurons called interneurons that are in your spinal cord. They process the information and form a response. And then that information is passed to the motor neuron. So we're now sending information out of the spinal cord to the motor neurons. They carry that information, the impulses, to the effector. An effector just means something that it's being acted on. So for example, in this case, the muscles in your leg. So the motor neuron passes information to your leg saying, hey, you're stepping on a tack. So then the muscle then is signaled to contract and move your leg. So there's 5 basic steps for how a reflex works. Notice that your brain is not involved with any of this. So some of this actually happens. This allows you to react very quickly to any sort of danger, so you don't actually accidentally harm yourself. So if it took a while for you to get off the tack, or to not touch a hot pan, well, like if you're touching a hot pan, you want to recoil as fast as possible, or else you're going to burn your fingers. So the quicker you can respond, the better. So this is a way for your body to quickly respond, so it doesn't even send that information to your brain, which is pretty cool. Meanwhile, impulses carrying information about the injury are sent to your brain. So later on, your brain will get information like, ouch, you stood on a tack, so let's take care of that. So by the time your brain interprets the pain, however, your leg and foot have already moved. The spinal cord does not control all reflexes. Many reflexes that involve your head, such as like blinking or sneezing, so if someone's like swinging at their hand towards your face, you're going to blink and kind of move your head back, that reflex, those are controlled by your brain. Alright, so now we're to the autonomic nervous system. So we just left the somatic nervous system, which is voluntary movement. Autonomic, like automatically, is activities that are involuntary, so not under conscious control. So for instance, when you start to run, the autonomic nervous system speeds up your heart rate and your blood flow to the skeletal muscles. They stimulate sweat glands for cooling, and slows down your contractions for smooth muscle and digestion system. So that's to put all of your energy into like running away from some sort of predator or some sort of dangerous thing, and it's going to harness that energy instead of wasting that energy on digestion. So that's not what your body is concerned about at that time. So you may not be aware of any of these activities, but all of them enable you to run faster and farther. So all these things happen, like you can't control really how fast your heart beats. That's something, again, that the autonomic nervous system, involuntary movement, controls. So the autonomic nervous system consists of 2 parts. There's a sympathetic pathway and a parasympathetic nervous system. In general, the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems have opposite effects on each organ they influence. The 2 systems produce a level of fine control that coordinates organs throughout the body. So for example, the heart rate increased is by the sympathetic, so like think it starts with an S, like stress. So a lot of things that would happen while you're stressed would be the sympathetic nervous system, but then heart rate would be decreased by the parasympathetic nervous system, which are both in the autonomic nervous system category. So in general, sympathetic system prepares your body for intense activity. So it's stimulation caused by an increase in blood pressure, the release of energy-rich sugar in the blood, and the shutting down of activities not related to the body's preparation for like fight or flight or fight or flee response to stress. So any sort of stress-induced activity kind of stimulates your sympathetic nervous system. So if I was like, okay, pop quiz today, right now, you kind of would start to get nervous and maybe heart rate would go up. That would be your sympathetic nervous system preparing you for fight or flight for a quiz. The parasympathetic nervous system is called kind of like your rest and digest response. You're like, I think of like passive means like not very energized. So that starts with a P as well, parasympathetic. So the parasympathetic is like your relaxation, relaxes your body. You're not under stress. You can focus on digesting your food and resting. So it lowers your heart rate, your blood pressure, activates digestion, and activates pathways that store food molecules in the tissue and body. So this would be the system when you're like kind of every day, your parasympathetic is kind of mostly working, but whenever any sort of stressful thing happens, the sympathetic nervous system kind of kicks in. All right, that is it. Thank you.